Hello, I am Starr Figura. I am Associate Curator of Prints and Illustrated Books at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And this exhibition, called German Expressionism, the Graphic Impulse, is an exhibition devoted to the broad modernist movement called German Expressionism, which took root in Germany and also in Austria during the first 2 decades of the 20th century. The first section of the exhibition is called Brücke, and it refers to the artist group known as Brücke, which was formed in the city of Dresden in 1905. The two leading artists of the group were Ernst Ludwig Kirchner and Erich Heckel. And they called themselves Brücke, which means bridge, because they believed that they could be a bridge to take art and society into the future. They felt constricted by the stiff and restrictive social attitudes of the day, and they also rejected the academic art that dominated artistic practice of the day. From the very beginning, they worked with woodcut, and woodcut in particular is the medium that is most associated with Expressionism. They made it into a very modern art form, and it helped them to develop their more radical aesthetic. The second section of the exhibition is called Der Blaue Reiter, known as the Blue Rider, which was another expressionist group that was formed in Munich around 1911. And the leaders of this movement were Wassily Kandinsky, who painted this beautiful painting here, picture with an archer from 1909, and Franz Marc. The Blaue Reiter artists were more interested in spiritual values, and so their art was more concerned with abstract forms and ideas about abstraction. Kandinsky and Marc both made quite a lot of woodcuts. What Kandinsky liked about the woodcut was it forced him to make his imagery very flat and very simplified. And that actually helped him take all of his work, including his paintings, and move it in a more abstract direction. The third section of the exhibition is devoted to Austrian Expressionism, which emerged in the city of Vienna around 1908-1909. And the two figures who dominated this movement in Austria were Oskar Kokoschka and Egon Schiele. In Austria, it wasn't a cohesive movement. These two artists were actually rivals, but both of them concentrated on portraiture and figure studies in which they penetrated their subjects in a very psychological way. Of course, both of these artists were contemporaries of Sigmund Freud, and so there's definitely a connection between what Schiele and Kokoschka were doing in their work and the ideas about the human psyche that were emerging in Vienna at this moment. The fourth section of the exhibition is titled Expressionism Flourishes. After 1910, the movement shifted to the capital city of Berlin. Many other artists began to work in an expressionist mode, and all these artists became aware of each other, and it created a sense of momentum for the movement. During this period, a number of very important themes that we associate with Expressionism began to emerge very clearly. One of these was the modern city. The artists had very ambivalent feelings about the excitement and the fast pace of urban life. On the one hand, they found it very exciting, they enjoyed the street life, they enjoyed the nightclubs, but on the other hand, they also saw the more sordid side of city life, the poverty, the crime, the sense of alienation. In contrast to the focus on the city, another major theme that emerged at this time was landscape. A lot of artists would retreat to urban areas, the seaside, the mountains, as almost a form of escape from city life. And they sort of continue the German romantic attitude towards nature as a place that could replenish and restore the spirit. The fifth section of the exhibition is titled War, and it deals with World War I, which started at the end of 1914 and lasted until 1918. A lot of the Expressionist artists embraced the war when it first broke out. The artists felt that it had the potential, the war had the potential to be an apocalyptic event that would clear away all of the old order, create a clean slate from which a new society that had a great role for art could emerge. Of course, it did not happen that way. The war went on much longer than anybody thought it would, and it was a terrible, devastating part of history in Germany at that time. Probably the most powerful graphic statement about World War I was this major portfolio of 50 etchings created by Otto Dix. And he had a very tough attitude about the war. He felt that it was absolutely terrible, but it was something that he had to experience in order to really understand the true deep down nature of man. The sixth section of the exhibition is called Post-War Politics, and it deals with the period, the few years just after the end of World War I. On this wall, we have a portfolio of 10 lithographs by Max Beckmann. This series is called Hell. It was created in 1919. Beckmann uses a lot of diagonal lines and jutting forms and a very tight, compressed space in order to convey the sense of claustrophobia and chaos that people felt at this time. The seventh and final section of the exhibition is titled Post-War Society. The leading artists at this moment were Otto Dix, Max Beckmann, and George Gross. You'll see a lot of images of the decadence of cafe society. You'll also see a lot of images of prostitutes. Despite all the problems, the art market in Germany at this time was incredibly strong, and this was because of the hyperinflation that took hold in Germany, where from one day to the next, the value of the currency would become almost worthless. So people were looking for a place to put their money that would be safer, and so people wanted to invest in art. Anybody who could was buying art, and in particular they were buying prints because they were more plentiful and more affordable. And so publishers and dealers took advantage of this moment, encouraging the artists to make more and more prints.